So we're going to take a look here at what sort of effect that we get by adding in this outlier. Now remember when we're talking about an outlier, we're talking about this 25, which we put in our stem and leaf over here, which is our number that really doesn't look like it makes sense with the rest of the data. Notice every number in the rest of the data is either in, if we look, let me use a different color, is either in the 50s or the 60s. So this number in the 20s is totally different. So we're calling that an outlier. Now, before when we found the mean, the median, the mode, and the range for these, for the first 10 numbers, the first 10 days of that 10-day forecast, this is what we came up with. We said the mean temperature was 60.6, so just a little bit more than 60. The median temperature was 61. The mode, we had 2 days that were 61 and 2 days that were 62, so we said it was both of those. And then the range was only 10. Now, remember when I said the range was kind of small considering we're looking over 10 days? Sometimes the range can be big just by having some outliers. So we're going to see here which of these things are affected. Now, before we move on to do that, remember that we talked about the fact that the mean, the median, and the mode are all numbers that are pretty close. We're going to see why. So we're going to take our 10 numbers, or sorry, our 11 numbers now, and we're going to go through and we're going to refine the mean, the median, the mode, and the range. But now we're going to do it with these 11 numbers. Now, just like last time, I'm going to start out actually finding the mode first because it's probably the most obvious. Now, looking at our data, we added in one new number. Guys, it actually doesn't change the mode because the mode is still the number that occurs the most, and still the number that occurring the most is going to be 61 and 62. So adding in that outlier actually did not change our mode at all. The second thing we're going to look for is our range. Remember, our range is the difference between the biggest and the smallest number. So our biggest number is 66, and our smallest number actually now is 25. If I subtract 66 and 25, I am now going to get 41. Our range now is 41. Remember, our range before was only 10. So that outlier has completely blown up my range. It's made my range much, much, much bigger because I have a number that is really small. And in some cases, that outlier can also be really big, but our outlier here is really small. So our range of temperatures looks much bigger now. It looks like the weather is all over the place with this 11th day. So the range definitely changed a lot. Now, next, we're going to go for the median. And something we're going to notice here is because now there are 11 numbers, there's actually going to be a number in the middle. So we're going to use the same strategy that we used yesterday when we said mark off the smallest, mark off the biggest. Next smallest, next biggest. Next smallest, next biggest. Next smallest, next biggest. Next smallest, next biggest. And now we see that this number is in the middle. That is the ones place, so that number represents 61. So my median is going to be 61. We go back and look at our median last time, 61. So actually that range didn't have any effect on our median at all. And a lot of times that's going to be true with our, the outlier didn't have an effect on our median at all. And a lot of times that's going to be true when we have outliers. The median is not very much affected by outliers. Okay, lastly, we're going to find our mean. Now, a quick trick I'm going to do is I already know that I added the first 10 numbers together. It was 606. So all I have to do is add the 11th number to that, which is 25. So I am going to get my calculator for my division here, just to speed it up a little bit. So I'm going to add 606, which we did before, and I'm going to add 25 to that, which gives me 631. Now, because we have another number, I'm actually dividing by 11 numbers now, which now, and I'm going to round this, I'm actually going to round this to the hundredths place. It's going to give me 57 and 36 hundredths is going to be my average. Now, if I look at my average from before, 4 was 60.6. Notice that this one number, this one outlier, 25, has brought my average temperature down just a little more than 3 degrees, which is kind of crazy. Just one outlier brought my number way down. You'll notice then that the average is greatly affected by outliers. When we have outliers, it really changes our average quite a bit. Now, you remember before that the mean, the median, the mode were all basically the same number. Notice now, just because of this one outlier, they're still not far apart, but the mean is now very, very different. Very, very different. So, one thing we can say is that when we have outliers, the two things that are affected the most are the mean or the average and the range. Those two things are very, very affected by outliers. So we really want to think about how the outliers are changing our data. Remember, when the range goes up, that means our data is more spread apart. It's a little more inconsistent. Because of that, sometimes when we have outliers, we either A, say, that's not a very good data point. That was something that wasn't normal. We throw it out. Or B, we keep it in our data. And a lot of times, the median actually becomes a little more useful because it's not very affected by those outliers. It gives us a better idea of what's normal for most of our data. So really think about outliers, looking for outliers, and seeing, yes, outliers do have a really big effect on our data.